like that.
Yeah, I was wondering how that is, whether we're both the participants and,
Yeah, I know.
so get all the data and have consent.
You
Well,
just need, is it just
the
a
issue
single
is-
signature
Yeah.
page?
The issue is, if
Yeah.
someone were to say, "Dear David, it was lovely to work with you, but I don't want my part to be," I mean, we have to have this opportunity. In the sense that, you know, I have seen it with the Tim Maven and I, we were the best of friends. We spent time together, families, sleepovers, and so on. And then one day he says, "That's it." And then we had this issue with data. I designed the research,
Who has access
but
to
he
what?
collected it. Anyway. And the worst thing, you know, did we ever tell you that Alfredo was involved in it?
Are you
Went
the
to
study
his-
staff? What is?
The manager, the training
Do
manager.
you fill out this line?
He went,
Yes,
he,
yes.
he went to the training manager.
Do you need the whole thing or just the last page?
He went to the training
Just the
manager
last page.
and said, "Michael is publishing on the data, I don't want him to publish."
Right,
Or something, because the training manager contacted my university
right,
saying that I published.
right.
So even though every participant had signed, and the agreement is with the participants, my university ended up,
Right.
you know, just caving in, and they said, "Okay," and I had no more access to the data that were designed, the collection of which I designed,
Right,
that I collected,
right,
that nobody disagreed with that I can use other than someone. And the worst is, this training manager writes to my university, "Michael Roth has on his website an image that comes off a video where there's a video that includes a video in the background that where there was a woman involved. And so you can backtrack the woman. But the only person who could know that this image comes from
right,
with a woman, and that the woman had not signed use of her image, was Tim Maven.
right,
But the manager already all of a sudden knew.
right.
So you know, you see what has happened there. And, you know,
So will this help?
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking, what's either what we need to sign or what we need to have a shared understanding about
it's,
to try to avoid.
see, there's-
Right.
my question would be, because that doesn't give me access to the data.
So the next thing I can do is I can add you to the research project.
Yeah. Alfredo.
And Alfredo.
Yeah.
Skip's already on there, Josh is on there.
Okay.
You're on my research collaboration in the Wild Research Project. You're formerly a researcher
Yeah.
colleague on there.
This,
But what is it? Is that the Ventana or the? Sorry, I don't understand what being on a research project means.
So they're talking about the researchers on
No, just, is that something you declare at UW Bothell?
the Human Subjects Division tracks who is on the research
Okay.
team. They used to. They actually don't track it anymore.
So did I
They used to
knowingly
track
do
it.
that or you just put it on?
Yeah, no, we talked about it. It was some years
Did I
ago.
sign something?
No, I don't think
you
you
just
have to.
you don't have to sign
You
anything.
just get listed on a
Yeah.
form saying this
And-
person is
No,
under
it's-
this
it's-
role. I
it's
don't
abso-
even know
it's
if it's
absolutely fine.
required anymore.
Yeah, it's not required anymore. It was then, and then
Right.
they changed the rules.
Right.
But we could still make an agreement that you.
Right.
I can submit them. I don't know how to do.
Right.
If it's not, I will look at the modification forms and see if there's anything to do to actually formally list the two of you on there, and I'll submit it to them. And if nothing else, they then will have a copy of that.
Yeah.
So that if I have a car accident and they come out with a different personality, you can still get that
Either.
data.
Another solution is to have the data agreement,
Yeah.
that
Among
we
us.
share the data, that
Right.
you grant
Yes,
us
yes.
access to the
Yeah,
data,
yes.
and we
Well,
don't restrict
and
each
that's-
other's access.
That's what and that may be completely separate from human subjects. Because I think human subjects, as long as you designate, they're on your research team, I don't think they require any formality now around that. So
Well,
I think it's really a data
if-
One
agreement
thing-
for
if-
us.
Yeah,
But the
I-
screwiness is we're subjects.
But
What was that?
We're subjects because we're publishing research on this.
But there are two issues.
And do people outside of Desk 5, are we allowing other people to look at this? May Robin look at this data?
Exactly.
May graduate students of mine look at this data?
Right.
AI looks
So
at the
this
Right,
covers that whole thing.
Because we're both, this is the interesting thing to me, we're both researchers and subjects.
Yes.
That's right. And what I'm suggesting is that just to make sure that if there was any, which we never know,
right,
you know, a fallout, you
Right.
don't know whether you and
Right.
Julie, no,
Jody?
yeah, Jody, you know, if something happens in 10 years down the road, you're
Right.
no longer a couple.
Right.
We can't anticipate. It would just make sure that
Right.
cover for these eventualities.
Right,
And it looks kind of funny because I would have never thought of signing a contract that
Exactly.
Sylvia doesn't get access to my money, but some men or women do that.
Right.
In
Right.
case of
Right. Thank you. If you wish, or I can send you the whole copy. That's all the page. That's all.
so did we resolve this, do we need a separate
Yeah,
data
I'll fill that
agreement?
out. Do you want to fill that out now?
I think,
I think we
given
should,
that,
I think we should have a separate data agreement, and so maybe we'll need
Okay.
to work on that.
Yeah.
Not this minute,
Yeah.
but we'll need to,
and there's a sidebar that another colleague of mine just raised, is the difference between big data and big content. So, as part of the data, do I also have access to your papers that come out of this?
Those are. Oh, I see. Free access.
So there's a big data, even though the papers are shorter, but there's also a big content. What's the content proviso along with the data proviso? Again, that's a sidebar, not to worry, but because generally things are published such that we have access to it. But like the stuff you're keeping, David, why can't I remember the name of the tool you're using? Ventana?
Transana.
Transana. That's content as well as data. And that, given what I just saw with your comments, there's a lot of content in there.
Yes.
So is that considered data or content? When we put together a data agreement?
Right. So you want these things to be clear.
Yeah, this is one of the, it's an interesting subset of the WFE. Is how do you begin to get the relationships when you've got participant observers? And there's data, and then there's analyses, and then there's publication. And I had missed the distinction between big data and big content.
You're giving this back to us, but it is you who has to keep it, right?
Uh-huh. I didn't know who I was.
See, as Skip says, it may not be an issue of human subjects at all because we're all the researcher, but a memorandum of understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we had that, or everything articulated, we just provide, we sign the document, and then we have an understanding, and someone, you know, if someone felt he wanted to step out, then we have a way of.
We have that.
And
between
an
both.
MOU is a great way to do that, David, because it's only semi-legalistic. Meaning that you don't have to worry as much about the language. I've seen in a lot of the things that we did along the way with the law firm, it was an MOU.
So would that supersede this, or do we think
No, it's
we
an
need
addition.
both?
It's an
different.
addition.
Okay, okay. I just,
But these are good things to have fun with your IRB committee
yeah.
when you're tilting at windows, when you get back. Mine's behind there.
Thank you.
I kept the verbiage, but gave you the sign sheet.
Does anybody want copies of this?
Digitally would be fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay, I will provide copies.
I do that now memorandum of understanding with my graduate students. This this is the basis on which we cooperate,
Yep.
and one or the other unhappy.
But it turns out the title seems legalistic, but you don't have to, you don't go to the craziness that the lawyers,
Yeah.
it just, it's plain English and works well.
Like when I assign one,
Yeah.
I'm doing a data collection that they pick me up in the school, and we sign a paper where we say, wherever it happens, Michael will have access to the data, I will have access to the data, we have the right to publish together or separately.
Do you have a copy of that? Can you send me that and
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
just use that then.
We can use that if we want.
Yeah, if that covers
I
everything.
use
So we
it-
can circulate that.
You know,
and
I
then-
use being cover agreement, data share agreement as a starting point. And I modify that
Yeah.
one, so it's coming
So
back
it's-
to you. You know,
And that's one, the beam buffer one started with Robin.
cool.
It's what she used for the DTRS. It's slightly modified.
You know, that game,
So,
in Spain, that game is called the crazy phone. Because I tell you something, and then whatever you hear, you tell it to the one, and we got it at the end.
being,
The
how we
input is-
feel about immigration in the United States, we call it Chinese whispers.
We called it,
Except there's a wall now, so you can't get in.
Yeah.
As we started talking about quickly about how we want to organize it,